Mystery Phantom. I didn't leave Redwood Vale the way people normally leave a town. I didn't pack up my life or say goodbye or promise to visit. I didn't even look back in the mirror as I crossed the tree line. I ran. Welcome to Redwood Vale. That was 22 years ago. And for 22 years, I told myself the same lie, that I'd escaped, that whatever lived in that place had stayed behind, trapped between the roots of those ancient redwoods and the rotting houses beneath them. I believed that lie right up until the morning I woke up with pine needles on my bedroom floor. My apartment was 300 miles away from the nearest forest. The needles were wet. That's when I knew. Redwood Vale had finally caught up with me. The road back looked wrong. I remembered it as a thin ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through towering redwoods so tall they erased the sky. But now the trees leaned inward, their branches interlocking overhead like clasped fingers. The light filtered through in narrow shafts, green and dim, as if the forest was underwater. The GPS lost signal 5 miles out. The radio dissolved into static. And then, very softly, I heard my name, exhaled. I told myself it was wind. Forests are full of sound. You learn that growing up rural. Trees creak, leaves whisper, branches knock together like knuckles. But this wasn't random. It had rhythm, recognition. The sign appeared suddenly around a bend. Welcome to Redwood Vale. Please drive slow. We've been waiting. I don't remember that second line being there when I was a kid. I pulled over. My hands were slick with sweat. My chest felt tight, like something inside me was bracing. I hadn't been back since the night my mother locked me in my room and told me through the door to stay quiet no matter what I heard, especially if I heard her voice. The town sat in a clearing carved out of the forest like a wound that never healed properly. A handful of buildings, a general store, a diner, a church whose steeple leaned just a little too far to the left.
Even if it was backward into the unknown.
No welcome banners, no
the fog
people,
was a shroud.
But every window was uncovered, watching. I parked near the old diner, the same one where my father used to drink black coffee and stare out the window like he was waiting for someone who never showed. The bell above the door rang when I stepped inside. Every head turned. They didn't look surprised. They looked relieved. An older woman behind the counter smiled slowly, like her face remembered the shape before she did. "You made it out," she said. I swallowed. "I think you have me confused with someone else." Her smile widened. "No," she said gently. "You're the one who got out." A man at the counter leaned over and whispered, "Did it follow you?" The room went very quiet. I should have asked what he meant. I should have turned around and left. But Redwood Vale has a way of making you sit down when it decides you're staying. And somewhere deep in the forest, something shifted, something that recognized my return. Something that had been patient. I had forgotten how quiet Redwood Vale could be when it wanted something. Not the normal kind of rural quiet, the peaceful absence of traffic or distant city noise, but a deliberate silence, like a held breath. Even the old diner seemed to pause around me, the clink of dishes and scrape of chairs swallowed by the weight of attention. They were all still watching me. The woman behind the counter poured coffee into a chipped mug without asking if I wanted it. The steam rose slowly, curling in the air like something alive. I noticed then that no one else had food in front of them. No plates, no cups, just hands folded on tabletops, fingers laced too tightly, waiting. "My name's Daniel," I said, mostly to hear my own voice. It sounded smaller than I expected. A man near the window nodded. "We know." That should have been impossible. I hadn't introduced myself yet, not in this town, not this time. But no one reacted to the statement. No exchanged glances, no confusion. They already agreed on it. I took a sip of the coffee. It tasted thin, like it had been brewed too many times using the same grounds, like memory stretched past usefulness. "How long has it been?" the woman asked. "Since I left?" I shrugged. 22 years. A murmur rippled through the diner, not surprise, recognition, relief. One woman pressed her palm flat against the table, as if steadying herself. "You were supposed to come back sooner," someone said. "I wasn't supposed to come back at all." That finally earned a reaction. The woman behind the counter met my eyes, and for the first time, her smile slipped. "No one ever leaves Redwood Vale," she said carefully. "They only go quiet." I pushed my chair back. The legs screeched against the tile, far too loudly in the stillness. "I'm just passing through. I'll get a room, sleep, and be gone by morning." A man laughed softly. "No, you won't." The words settled over the room like dust. I stood. No one tried to stop me, but as I reached for the door, I realized something deeply wrong. The bell didn't ring when I opened it. Outside, the town looked closer than before. The buildings leaned inward, subtly, like conspirators. I walked past the general store, its windows filled with items I remembered from childhood, candy bars that hadn't been made in decades, newspapers dated the year I left. Every face I passed nodded to me. Some smiled, some looked afraid. I recognized one of them. His name was Tommy Griggs. He'd been my age when I left. We used to fish together down at the creek, daring each other to wade deeper, pretending the dark water wasn't cold. Tommy should have been 40 now, but he wasn't. He stood outside the post office, wearing the same denim jacket I remembered, his hair the same length, his face unchanged, except for his eyes. They looked worn, used. "Danny," he said, like no time had passed at all. "You shouldn't have come back." I stared at him. "You haven't aged." He flinched. "We don't talk about that," he whispered. "It hears." "What hears?" Tommy glanced toward the forest. The trees were closer now. I was sure of it. "You got out. That means it chose someone else." "What are you talking about?" He stepped closer. I smelled damp earth on him, like he'd been standing barefoot in soil.
Every few years, someone leaves, everyone else stays. That's the balance. My stomach tightened, and when someone leaves, the veil keeps the rest of us. A scream echoed suddenly from somewhere near the edge of town, cut short like a hand clapped over a mouth. No one ran toward it. No one reacted at all. "That's new," Tommy murmured. "It usually waits until night." I backed away from him, from the town, from the trees that now seemed to loom higher than before. "I'm leaving, right now." Tommy grabbed my arm. His grip was cold, unnaturally so. "You can't until it decides if you brought something back with you." I yanked free and ran, but the road out of Redwood Vale was no longer where it had been. The forest had moved, and the people who never left were smiling again.
The house that still knew me. The house was not where I remembered it. That was the first lie Redwood Vale told me that night, and maybe the cruelest. When I was a kid, our place sat at the far edge of town, where the gravel thinned into dirt and the forest began to creep in. It had been a modest 2-story farmhouse with peeling white paint and a porch that sagged in the middle. From the upstairs window, I used to watch the tree line and imagine the woods breathing. Now the house stood deeper in the forest, as if the town had pushed it back like an unwanted memory. I don't remember choosing to walk there. I only remember realizing I was already on the path, my feet following a trail worn smooth by years of return. The air smelled wet, rich with rot and pine sap. Somewhere behind me, the town lights dimmed, one by one, until the forest swallowed everything. The house waited. It always had. The porch light was on. I stood at the foot of the steps for a long time, listening. The forest was quiet in a way that felt rehearsed. No insects, no wind, no birds settling for the night. Just the faint sound of breathing. Not mine. I stepped onto the porch. The wood didn't creak. It remembered my weight. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. Inside, the air was stale but warm, like someone had been living there recently and stepped out just moments before I arrived. The smell hit me at once, dust, old wood, and something coppery beneath it all. The living room looked exactly as it had the night I left. Same couch, same armchair, same dark stain on the carpet where my father spilled wine and didn't bother to clean it. The clock on the wall ticked. It hadn't worked in 22 years. I moved slowly, afraid that if I went too fast, the illusion would break and reveal something worse beneath it. "Mom?" I called, hating myself for the hope in my voice. Something shifted upstairs. Not footsteps, weight. The stairs creaked as I climbed them, each step releasing a groan of protest, like the house didn't approve of me going up there again. The hallway at the top was darker than it should have been, even with the light on at the far end. My bedroom door was closed. It had never been closed. My hand hovered inches from the knob, and suddenly I was 10 years old again, listening from behind the door as my mother begged someone or something to leave us alone. I turned the knob. The room was wrong.
It was too clean. The posters were gone. The toys were missing. The walls were bare except for long, shallow scratches that ran from floor to ceiling, as if someone had dragged their fingers down the paint again and again. The window was open. The curtains stirred, though there was no wind. And on the bed sat a man who looked exactly like me. He raised his head slowly, eyes too dark, smile just a little too wide. "You shouldn't have brought it back," he said, in my voice. My legs locked. "Who are you?" He laughed softly. "I'm what you left behind." The air grew heavy, pressing in on my ears until I could hear my own pulse. The thing wearing my face stood, moving with a stiffness that made my skin crawl. "It followed you," he said. "You fed it with distance, with forgetting." "What is it?" I whispered. He tilted his head, listening to something beyond the walls. "Home," he said. The floorboards groaned beneath us, not from movement, but from pressure. Something massive shifted below the house, deep in the soil, coiling like a sleeping animal disturbed. The lights flickered. From downstairs came the sound of the front door opening, then closing. Someone else had entered the house, and they were humming my mother's favorite song.
The church wasn't on any map, at least not the ones I remembered. I found it as the fog began to thicken around the far edge of Redwood Vale. Its steeple leaned slightly, like the town itself was bowing to some unseen force. The doors were open, and light spilled across the damp ground, weak and flickering, yet somehow warmer than any lamp I had passed all night. When I stepped inside, I felt it immediately. The absence of something. Not air, not warmth, not even light. The absence of God. The pews were old and splintered, yet perfectly aligned, as though someone had cared enough to rearrange them nightly. A single candle burned at the altar, its flame quivering though there was no draught. I whispered a prayer out of habit. It hung in the air like smoke and dissolved without answer. A man appeared behind the altar, thin and gaunt, eyes glowing faintly in the candlelight. I didn't recognize him, though I should have. In Redwood Vale, everyone remembers or is remembered. "Welcome back," he said. His voice carried a weight I felt in my chest. "We've been expecting you." I swallowed. Expecting me? I didn't know anyone was waiting. He shook his head slowly. "You never left, Daniel. Not really. The veil doesn't allow it. It only lets you think you've left." I wanted to laugh, wanted to scream, but instead I just nodded, though I understood nothing. The house, the town, the road, they are all guardians of what you left behind, of what you forgot, of what must never leave. I felt my pulse quicken. What must never leave? He stepped closer. "It," he said, pausing, "follows anyone who strays, but it doesn't act alone. The veil, it requires witnesses." The candle flickered violently, and I thought I saw shadows crawling along the walls, just at the edge of vision. Shadows that shouldn't have been there, yet were undeniably alive. "You mean the people? The ones in the diner? The ones outside?" "Yes," he said, nodding. "They are part of the cycle. Every few years someone tries to leave. The veil, it decides if the balance has been maintained. If it hasn't, it sends something after them. I remembered Tommy's words from the diner. It usually waits until night. And if it catches them, I asked, they become part of us, or they disappear entirely. His gaze flicked toward the pulpit. There is no God here to save you, Daniel, only the rules. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that rules were made to be broken, but I felt the walls closing in, felt the pews watching, felt the candle flame pulsing like a heartbeat. Then I heard it, a low, guttural whisper behind me. The sound was familiar yet distorted. I turned, and there was no one, but the echo of someone or something was undeniable. The man behind the altar smiled faintly. Do you understand now? They all stay because someone must be watching, someone must remember, and someone must feed it. I swallowed hard. My fingers brushed the wood of a pew. Cold, alive, watching. I realized then that everything I had done to survive, every mile I had traveled, every town I had passed, had been meaningless. I had never truly escaped Redwood Vale. I had only delayed it. I turned to leave the church. The doors were still open. The fog was thick outside. But as I stepped forward, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Something moved below the floorboards, a vibration I could feel through my shoes. A whisper, clearer this time, "Daniel." I froze. The candle flame shuddered violently, then extinguished, plunging the church into darkness. And in that darkness I knew Redwood Vale had me again. After leaving the church, the fog had thickened into something tangible, as though the air itself had mass and memory. Every step I took along the edge of Redwood Vale's farmland felt like walking through water, each footfall slowing me, pulling me closer to something unseen. The field stretched farther than I remembered, rows of corn and wheat bending unnaturally toward the forest. Each stalk seemed to twitch as I passed, not from wind, but from awareness, from intent. I could almost hear them breathing, low, rhythmic, like 100 lungs exhaling in unison. I stopped. I told myself it was exhaustion, the fog, my imagination, but the hair on the back of my neck refused to lie down. My shadow fell strangely, stretched across the waving crops like a warning. Then I saw it, a figure at the far edge of the field, motionless, watching me, too tall, impossibly still, blending in with the stalks. I squinted and it disappeared, only to reappear a few steps closer every time I blinked. I ran. The field seemed to pulse, the rows narrowing around me, corn stalks bent, brushing my arms and legs as if trying to slow me. I shouted, but the fog swallowed my voice before it could reach the edges. Something moved faster than my eyes could track, a shadow darting between stalks, always at the periphery. I stumbled into a depression in the land and fell hard, scraping my knees. When I looked up, the figure was closer, and I realized with a cold, absolute certainty it was not human, not entirely. And then I heard voices, soft, dissonant, whispering my name from every direction.
not echoes, intentional, repeating syllables that made my skin crawl. The fog twisted and coiled around me, and each stalk I passed seemed to whisper secrets I had long forgotten, memories I had buried in childhood. I remembered the creek where Tommy and I fished, the late nights hiding from my mother, the promise I made to leave and never look back. The fields were reminding me. I scrambled to my feet and ran toward the town lights in the distance, but the land had shifted. Roads I had known since childhood now curved into the fog, disappearing into nothing. I stumbled into the wheat, which had thickened impossibly, reaching over my shoulders like hands. And then I felt it. Eyes on the back of my head, hundreds, maybe thousands, scattered among the crops, watching, judging, waiting. Something whispered behind me, slow and deliberate. You came back. I spun, but the fog swallowed the figure again. I could only hear it moving, just out of sight, keeping pace with me effortlessly. I broke into a sprint, barely keeping track of the path. My lungs burned, my knees screamed, and then the earth shifted beneath me again, like the forest and fields themselves were alive, guiding me, corralling me, reminding me I had never left. I reached the edge of the field, and the town appeared again, closer than it should have been. Every window glimmered faintly. The diner, the church, my house, they were waiting, watching, expecting, and I knew with a certainty that made my chest tighten that the fields weren't just watching me, they were learning from me, recording my steps, counting my heartbeats, marking my hesitation. Redwood Vale wasn't a town, not exactly. It was a living memory, a predator disguised as nostalgia. And tonight, it had me in its gaze.
I thought I had seen the worst of Redwood Vale's quiet horror in the diner, the church, and the fields, but nothing could have prepared me for the children. They were waiting in the playground at the center of town, though I knew I had never seen a playground there before. Swings creaked slowly, empty but moving as if pushed by invisible hands. The slide gleamed wet in the fog, and the sandbox, oh, the sandbox. It was filled with toys I remembered from my childhood. Tiny trucks, dolls, blocks, all arranged as though someone had been playing and just vanished. Then I heard them, soft singing, like children learning a rhyme. But the voices weren't playful. They were too slow, too deliberate, echoing in a way that made my stomach turn. And then I saw them. A group of children lined the edge of the playground. I froze. Their faces should have been older by now, but they weren't. They were exactly the same as the day I left Redwood Vale. My neighbors, classmates, friends I hadn't seen since I ran from Redwood Vale. Their eyes were wide, unblinking, pale in the fog. "Danny," one said, her voice perfectly the same as it had been when we were 10. Another whispered, "It's waiting." I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. My heart pounded. The fog pressed in around me, thick and wet. I could see the faint outlines of the forest surrounding the playground, redwoods like silent sentinels. One boy stepped forward, Tommy's face, the same age as mine when I left. His eyes were empty, but he smiled. "You've been gone a long time." I shook my head. You haven't grown. None of you. How is this possible? The children tilted their heads in unison, unnatural, deliberate, their voices layered into one, a soft choir. We stay, we wait, we remember. A cold wind blew, and the playground seemed to stretch, widening in impossible ways. Shadows moved between the swings and slides. The children did not move, they only watched. I realized with a slow, sinking horror that the children were not alive, not really. They were echoes, memory made flesh. Redwood Vale had trapped pieces of its own history, anchoring it to the town, to the fields, to the forest. I stumbled backward. The sand shifted beneath my feet, forming shapes, faces pressed up from below, crying silently, reaching for me. I wanted to scream, but the children's song grew louder, drowning my own voice. You brought it back, the tallest girl said, pointing toward the forest. You can't leave now. It saw you first. I turned toward the trees. Something stirred at the edge of my vision. Something massive, watching, learning, waiting. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape, but I remembered the diner, the church, the house. Everything I thought I had left behind had been waiting for me, and now it had children too. The playground stretched wider, the fog thicker. The children raised their hands in unison, pointing toward the darkening forest, and in their eyes I saw the town's message repeated in silent horror. No one leaves Redwood Vale. Not really. I didn't notice it at first. The first dogs I saw in Redwood Vale had been normal, or at least as normal as you'd expect in a small rural town. Old mutts sleeping in yards, tiny pups yipping in the streets, the occasional shepherd wandering near the edge of the forest. But that night, the night after I saw the children, something changed. I was walking back toward my house, trying to make sense of the playground, the echoes, the fog thick enough to taste. Somewhere ahead, a dog barked, or at least I thought it did. Then another, and another. Then silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. I froze. The hairs on my arms and neck rose. Even the fog seemed to lean closer. And in that silence, I realized something horrifying. It wasn't that the dogs had gone quiet. It was that they had stopped existing for me, like they had been erased, or maybe just paused, waiting. I moved forward slowly. Shadows of trees and houses stretched unnaturally long. And then I heard them, footsteps, light but deliberate, following me. Not human footsteps, not mine, something else. I spun around. The street was empty. The dogs were gone, not just out of sight, but gone from memory. My mind insisted I had seen them, yet there was nothing. Then I saw movement at the forest edge, two shapes, low to the ground, eyes glinting faintly in the fog. Wolves? Coyotes? Or something the Vale had turned into hunters? I wanted to run, but my legs froze. The figures circled, slow, calculating. And then the sounds of the forest changed. No wind, no insects, only low, synchronized breathing that didn't belong to me. I realized in a cold, heart-squeezing moment that the Redwood Vale controlled more than the town. It controlled the land, the creatures, the very air.
Everything obeyed its rules, or at least everything obeyed its memory of what belonged there. I stumbled backward, almost tripping over something. A small dog, one I remembered from childhood, Rover. But his eyes were too large, too black, unblinking. He barked once, then silence again. The veil was teaching me, testing me, making me aware of my helplessness. I could hear faint voices from the diner, faint whispers from the church, the children from the playground, all repeating a single urgent lesson. You cannot leave. You never truly leave. A low growl emerged from the forest, something larger than a dog, something impossibly intelligent, stalking me, learning my pace, anticipating my steps. Its gaze, even unseen, pressed against my back. I ran. The streets of Redwood Vale twisted unnaturally, curving back on themselves like a labyrinth designed to trap me. Shadows darted at the periphery of vision. No streetlights, no friendly walls, only the fog, the trees, and the silent intelligence hunting me. And then I saw a pack of them, dogs, wolves, shapes that should not exist, all frozen in place, their bodies tensed, muscles ready, teeth bared, yet not moving, waiting for something that had not arrived. And in that moment, I understood the veil doesn't just trap people. It watches, waits, and prepares everything for the moment it needs to reclaim what it lost. I didn't stop running until the first hints of the town lights glimmered through the fog. But even then, I knew I wasn't safe. The dogs had gone silent, yes, but the forest, the town, the veil itself, they were alive, and they were patient. I could feel it everywhere I went, eyes in the shadows, calculating, waiting. And that night, for the first time, I truly understood the meaning of the town's warning. No one leaves Redwood Vale. Not the children, not the dogs, not me.
I found the map by accident. Or maybe Redwood Vale allowed me to find it. It was inside the general store, tucked under a stack of newspapers that hadn't been printed in decades. The edges were frayed, the paper brittle and yellowed, but the lines moved. I stared at it for several long moments before I understood. Every street I thought I knew, every alley I had walked 1,000 times in childhood had shifted. The town itself wasn't static. It didn't just exist in space, it existed in memory, in expectation, in intent. And the map revealed the truth. It was alive. Buildings moved on the paper as I blinked. Roads curved where there had been straight paths. The church, the diner, my house, they swirled in small circles, almost like a predator stalking its prey. I reached out and touched the map. My finger trembled. The paper rippled under my skin like it had been waiting for me to feel it. And then the map spoke, not in words, but in understanding. I realized with a shudder that wherever I thought I was going, toward the edge of town, toward escape, the map itself would bend reality to prevent it. It wasn't just the forest, the fields, or the people. It was everything. Every line, every street, every shadow obeyed the veil's will. I tried to fold the map, destroy it, burn it. It refused.
Ash curled and vanished in my hand. Paper creased and smoothed itself out. And then I noticed something worse. My own footsteps were drawn on the map, faint lines showing where I had walked and where I would walk. Something was tracking me in real time. I ran from the store, crumpling the map in my hands, and found myself back at the edge of the field. Only the landscape had changed. Roads that had led straight home now twisted unpredictably, leading me in circles. I shouted into the fog, "Stop! I'm not playing your game!" No answer. The forest shifted subtly in the corner of my vision. Trees leaned closer, trunks bending unnaturally, roots reaching under the asphalt. The air hummed, alive with intent, and I realized Redwood Vale wasn't just alive, it was intelligent. Every element of it, every street, tree, and shadow existed to track, observe, and reclaim anyone who tried to leave. The map in my hands, now heavier, thicker, seemed almost sentient. The lines moved toward me like liquid, guiding my path or constraining it. I understood then that escape was an illusion. Each step I took was already predicted, recorded, and observed. I dropped to my knees, exhausted, gasping. The fog thickened around me, pressing closer than the walls of my childhood room ever could. And then I saw it, a faint trail on the map, glowing slightly, my own footsteps, leading me back to the diner. The diner, where the faces I remembered smiled patiently, knowing I would return, where the church waited, where the house still knew me. And then I understood the final truth about the map. It was not meant to guide me. It was meant to remind me. Every time I thought I could leave Redwood Vale, the map would change, the town would change, the forest, the fields, the children, the dogs, they would all shift around me, and the Vale would wait, because it always waits. I never meant to find it. The well. No one mentioned it. Not the diner, not the church, not the children. But it had been there all along, hidden beneath the ground at the center of Redwood Vale, swallowed by overgrowth, disguised by old stones and moss. Something about it called to me, not with sound, but with memory. A pull I could not resist. I found it behind the playground, just past the twisted rows of corn. The stones were slick with fog, cold beneath my hands. The air smelled of damp earth, rot, and something older than Redwood Vale itself. I knelt and looked down. The darkness wasn't normal. It didn't absorb light. It devoured it. Shadows moved in patterns, curling and uncurling like living smoke. I heard a whisper, "Daniel." It came from below, not wind, not fog, not human. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run back toward the diner, toward the house, toward anywhere else. But the fog pressed in on me, and something cold brushed my shoulder like a hand, reminding me I had been chosen the moment I left. I dropped to my knees and shone my flashlight into the well. The light vanished almost immediately, swallowed by darkness deeper than any I had ever seen. I could feel movement far below, shapes shifting, waiting, something alive and vast, something that had been there before Redwood Vale existed, before the trees, before the town. It remembered me. And then I understood. Redwood Vale was not a town, not a memory, not a trap. It was a gate. The well was the origin point. The thing beneath fed on memory, on presence, on those who tried to leave. It followed anyone who strayed too far, patient, calculating, waiting decades if necessary. It taught the town its rules. It bound the people, the children, the fields, the dogs, all in service of keeping the balance. I leaned closer. My breath fogged the edges of the stone, and I saw it. Eyes. Hundreds of them swirling in the darkness, reflecting faint light from some impossible depth, shapes coiling and writhing. The thing had no form, yet it had presence. It watched, it remembered, it judged. I fell backward, scrambling away, my heart hammering. It followed me. I ran blindly through the fog, tripping over roots, stumbling past the corn, the fields now stretching impossibly wide. I could hear it behind me, moving without sound, shaping reality around my flight. The children's song drifted faintly on the wind. The dogs remained silent. The town itself seemed to lean in, closing paths, narrowing escapes. And then I heard it, clearer than ever. You brought it back. The words weren't spoken by human mouths. They rolled across the fog, deep and resonant, vibrating in my chest. And I knew I had never truly left Redwood Vale. I had only delayed the inevitable. The well beneath the town was patient. The thing beneath the well was patient. And now it had seen me.
I thought I had been careful. I thought I had stayed in the lights, on paths I could see, among the structures I knew. But Redwood Vale does not allow care. It only allows compliance. That night, I felt it fully. The fog was thicker than ever, almost tactile, wrapping around me like a living shroud. The air pressed into my lungs. Every shadow seemed to pulse, and every sound, footsteps, whispers, the creak of distant wood, was amplified until it became unbearable. I turned a corner toward my house. The forest loomed closer than it ever had before. And then I saw it. At first it was just a shadow, taller than any human, moving in the fog. Then I realized it wasn't moving toward me, it was shaping the fog itself, twisting paths, bending trees, guiding me where it wanted. The thing didn't walk, it flowed, a mass of darkness and intent, with eyes that burned faintly like dying stars. My heart froze. I knew that sound, low, guttural, resonating in my chest, the same vibration I had felt near the well. It was aware of me. It had tracked me through the fields, past the playground, into the town. "You shouldn't have come back," it whispered, not with a voice, but through thought, through memory, through instinct. I stumbled backward. My legs refused to move fast enough. My lungs burned. I wanted to scream, but the air itself swallowed my voice. Then I noticed the reflections in the windows of the diner, the church, the houses, my own face, my fear, multiplied infinitely, staring back at me from every pane of glass. The children from the playground appeared in these reflections, unmoving, watching, waiting. I tried to run, but the thing flowed after me effortlessly, slipping between trees and shadows, twisting the world to trap me. It reached toward me, not with hands, but with awareness, pressing against the edges of my mind. I could feel it inside me, reading, judging, learning. I tripped over a root and fell hard. The fog parted slightly, revealing the full shape of it. Impossible, vast, shifting, a mass of darkness that seemed to occupy both the ground and the air. Eyes everywhere, limbs, or maybe shadows pretending to be limbs, teeth glinting faintly, and a sense of intelligence, calculating, patient, eternal. It spoke again, silently. "You belong here. You always have." I stumbled backward, hearing the crunch of gravel behind me. I turned toward the diner, toward safety, or what I thought was safety, but the ground shifted, subtly, unnaturally. The roads bent, the trees leaned, the town itself moved, shaping reality to funnel me closer to the thing. I could feel it learning me, anticipating me, waiting. And then it made its move, not fast, too fast to comprehend, but a ripple in the fog, a shift in gravity, a distortion in the air. My surroundings distorted, shadows lengthened, the thing coiled around me, tightening, pressing in on my vision, my hearing, my mind. I screamed. My voice finally pierced the fog, a raw, ragged sound. The children's voices layered with mine, echoing infinitely. The dogs remained silent. The town remained still, watching. And in that moment, I understood completely. Redwood Vale had never been about escape. It had always been about return. Every step I took had led me here. Every memory, every fear, every attempt to outrun it had brought me closer. The thing leaned closer, filling my vision, pressing against my mind, coiling around my chest. "You will stay," it whispered in my thoughts, "and eventually you will understand." And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it receded slightly, enough for me to crawl backward, panting, bloodied, trembling. The fog shifted, the road straightened, and the town appeared normal, almost welcoming. But I knew it was waiting, always waiting, patient, eternal, and one day it would return. Because Redwood Vale never forgets. Because it always follows. I finally understood something crucial that night. Redwood Vale was a game. Not a game you played consciously, not one with boards or pieces, not one with dice or chance. A game of memory, of fear, of obedience. And the rules were cruelly simple. Rule 1, you never leave. I had thought I had left, running through forests, fields, and streets, but the Vale does not recognize leaving. Every path you take, every step you think is free, is already accounted for. The roads bend, the trees lean, the fog shifts. The town corrects itself around you. You are trapped by your own perception. Rule 2, it follows. That thing, the shadow, the well, the intelligence beneath the town, it follows every step, patient, constant, learning. It waits decades if necessary, testing, observing, studying the weak points in your memory, your instincts, your fear. It does not hunt like a predator. It hunts like an idea, inevitable, persistent, and eternal. Rule 3, everyone stays behind. The children, the adults, the dogs, the fields, they are extensions of the veil. They watch, they remember, they ensure compliance. Every soul who remains reinforces the rules. Every child frozen in time, every dog silent in the fog, every person in the diner, they are guardians, witnesses, feeders. Rule 4, memory is a weapon. The veil uses what you forget against you. Every childhood promise, every fear, every guilt is weaponized. It reminds you, constantly. My house remembered me. My footsteps appeared on the moving map. The children repeated my own memories back to me. Every action I had thought meaningless was cataloged, twisted, used to anticipate my next move. Rule 5, compliance is survival, but survival is temporary. You may follow the rules, you may appease the town, you may survive for days, months, or years, but the moment you believe you are free, the veil will act, and it will test you again, and again, and again. I remembered the diner, the church, the playground, the well, the fields, the dogs, the shadows, the map. I remembered every fear, every misstep, every moment of hesitation. The veil had been waiting for me to remember, waiting for me to understand, waiting for me to truly see it. I realized then the veil did not just trap bodies, it trapped minds. Every memory, every identity, every choice became part of it, and in doing so, it became alive. I sat on the curb outside my house, exhausted. My hands trembled. The fog whispered my name. I could see the diner lights, the church steeple, the edge of the forest, everything alive with intent. And I understood the cruelest rule of all. You cannot fight it. You cannot bargain. You cannot escape. All you can do is comply until it decides otherwise. Because the veil is patient. Because the veil is intelligent. Because the veil never forgets. And it is always, always following.
I thought I had understood Redwood Vale. I was wrong. The forest was alive in ways I had never imagined. Not just trees, not just roots, not just shadows, but thoughtful, calculating, hunting life. Every redwood, every bramble, every tendril of fog obeyed the veil. And tonight, it was testing me. I stepped into the edge of the forest after leaving the diner, hoping for cover, for space, for clarity. But the moment my feet left the road, the world changed. The trees leaned closer, subtly at first, then aggressively.
branches arched like skeletal arms, brushing against my shoulders and face. Roots rose from the ground, twisting like snakes, tangling around my ankles. The air grew heavier. Every inhale was a struggle. I ran. The forest shifted beneath me. Paths I had known as a child twisted unpredictably. Shadows darted between trunks. Leaves rustled with whispers I could almost understand. Not words, feelings, accusations, reminders of everything I had ever done wrong, every promise broken, every fear I had hidden. Branches reached for me, not to strike, but to delay, to teach me patience. I stumbled over a root and fell hard. My palms scraped against wet dirt and moss. My eyes caught movement, something gliding, impossibly fast, weaving between the trunks. It wasn't fully visible. It didn't need to be. I felt its presence in the rhythm of my heartbeat, in the pressure on my back, in the fog curling around me. I screamed. My voice echoed through the trees, but the forest swallowed it immediately. It did not respond, did not relent. It only watched, learned, and adapted. And then I saw the children. Or rather, I glimpsed their forms between the trees, tiny silhouettes standing unnaturally straight, faces blank. Their eyes glinted faintly in the dim light. As I ran past, they didn't move, but the forest bent slightly toward them, as if acknowledging their command. I realized with a cold certainty, the forest obeys the veil. The children are its agents, and it hunts through them. Roots and vines snaked toward me faster now, twisting into barricades and corridors. The fog thickened, curling into funnels, guiding me towards some inevitable destination. And in the distance, I heard it again, low, guttural, intelligent. Not a growl, not a roar, a presence, conscious, patient, eternal. I ran blindly. Branches lashed my arms, roots tripped me, leaves scratched my face. But I could feel the forest learning me, adapting to my speed, my habits, my desperation. And then it touched my mind, not with hands, not with teeth, but with knowledge. Memories I had buried, fears I had ignored, guilt I had hidden. It all pressed into me at once. The forest was alive in thought and instinct, and I was its prey, its experiment, its reminder of rules. I finally stumbled into a small clearing. The moonlight revealed a road that shouldn't have been there. The forest recoiled slightly. It waited, calculated, observed, and I understood. Redwood Vale isn't just a town. It's a predator. The forest, the fields, the streets, the children, they are extensions of the same will. Patient, intelligent, eternal.
I thought the clearing had given me a moment to breathe. I was wrong. The forest had been patient until now. It had allowed me a fleeting illusion of safety, letting me believe I could escape its embrace. But patience is a weapon, and now it struck. Roots surged from the ground like snakes, snapping at my ankles, wrapping around my legs. Branches whipped across my face, leaving deep scratches. Leaves pelted me like fists. I stumbled, fell, scrambled, only to be met with another obstacle. The very path I had hoped to take had disappeared. The forest had shifted it, curving reality, bending the road back toward the center of Redwood Vale. The fog thickened, curling into tendrils that pressed against my skin. I could feel the intelligence behind it, calculating, adapting, learning. Every step I took, every stumble I made was anticipated. And then I heard it. Low, resonant, patient, deep in the trees. Not a growl, not a howl. Thought, awareness. You cannot leave. I ran blindly through the fields, tripping over the soft earth, feeling stalks of corn and wheat twisting around my arms. The children's whispers followed me, just beyond the edge of hearing. Their eyes, faintly glowing in the fog, peered from every shadow, every reflection, every branch. I reached the edge of the fields, thinking I might finally break free. But the fog wasn't just fog anymore. It was thick, dense, almost physical. Shapes moved within it, coiling, waiting, ready to strike. A tree fell impossibly fast, its massive trunk smashing the ground where I had just been. I leapt aside, my heart hammering, lungs burning. The forest didn't tire, it didn't slow, it didn't hesitate. Roots rose again, bristling, snapping toward me. The ground beneath my feet shifted, the air around me hummed with intent. And I realized this wasn't just hunting, this was testing. Every movement, every breath, every heartbeat cataloged, measured, and countered. I stumbled into the remnants of the playground. The swings swayed violently, the slide rattled. The sandbox's toys were scattered, forming shapes I didn't recognize. The children were there, standing like sentinels, silent, motionless, eyes fixed on me. I tried to scream. No sound emerged. The fog pressed closer, coiling like fingers. I could feel the intelligence behind it, touching my mind, probing my memories, twisting my fears into tangible obstacles. The well beneath the town, the house, the diner, the map, they were all watching, waiting, coordinating. I realized then that the veil doesn't just punish those who try to leave, it teaches them. Each chase, each twist, each attack refines me, reshapes me, prepares me. I am not fleeing, I am learning, I am becoming part of it. And the forest, alive, aware, eternal, struck again. A root caught my ankle. I fell hard. The cornstalks bent over me, scratching, tearing at my clothes. Branches reached like hands, gripping my shoulders, pulling me back. The fog swirled, obscuring everything, forcing me to feel my fear, my exhaustion, my inevitability. I screamed again. This time my voice was swallowed, twisted, returned as a whisper from every direction. The children's song overlapped with it. The dogs remained silent. The town remained still.
And then, at the very edge of the fog, I saw it, a faint ripple in the darkness, coiling and uncoiling, waiting, patient, inevitable. The thing beneath the well, the shadow that had followed me for decades, was aware of me again. And I understood fully. I cannot escape Redwood Vale. The forest hunts, the children watch, the thing waits, and I am alone.
The fog pressed in thicker than ever, almost suffocating. My chest burned, my lungs screamed. Every step through the forest and the fields felt heavier, as if the air itself remembered every mistake I had ever made. And then it happened. Time warped. One moment I was running through the corn, stumbling over roots. The next, I was back on my childhood street, the one I thought I had left behind. The houses looked the same, the windows glowed faintly. My own younger self sat on the curb, legs dangling, eyes wide. I froze. "Danny?" my childhood self asked, voice trembling with curiosity and fear. I stumbled backward, my mind spinning. This was impossible. This was not just memory, it was present. The veil had folded the past into now, pulled it from memory and made it tangible. The fog twisted, curling around the houses, the trees, the streets. Every sound I had ever made as a child echoed around me. Laughter I had forgotten, arguments I had tried to bury, footsteps I had run from, all of it alive, all of it watching. The children I had seen in the playground appeared beside me, but now they were different. Some were older, some younger, all observing, all silent. The eyes of the dogs glowed faintly in the distance, and the forest beyond trembled like a living heartbeat. "You can't leave," a voice whispered, deep and resonant, as if coming from every direction at once. "You never left." I tried to speak, but my words stuck in my throat. Every memory I had suppressed, the fights, the secrets, the guilt, it all pressed against me, amplified by the veil. Every choice I had made to escape now felt like a chain. I ran through the streets, but every house, every window, every shadow replayed a moment of my past, twisted just enough to make me hesitate. One window showed my mother calling me inside. Another showed Tommy laughing by the creek. Another showed the diner, empty, silent, waiting. The fog shifted again. I was in the forest, then the fields, then the church, then my bedroom. I couldn't tell what was real. My own memories were attacking me. Every heartbeat, every breath, every fear catalogued, measured, and reflected back. And in every place I saw it, the thing. Patient, eternal, waiting beneath the well, coiling through the forest, shaping the fog, guiding the children, commanding the dogs, controlling the streets, watching me, testing me. I fell to my knees, my hands shook, my mind spun. Every moment of my life had been a map for the Vale. Every fear, every guilt, every suppressed memory, it all fed the town, the forest, the fields, the children. You belong. You always belonged. It whispered through every shadow. I understood then. The Vale does not just trap people, it traps time itself. It folds past, present, and fear into a single, unbreakable loop. There is no escape. There is no tomorrow. Only repetition, only observation, only the patient, eternal will of Redwood Vale. I tried to scream. The fog swallowed my voice. The children's eyes followed me. The forest pressed in. The thing beneath the well coiled closer. And I realized with unbearable clarity my past had caught up, and it had brought me exactly where the Vale wanted me. I thought the children were just ghosts, shadows of memory, echoes of my past. I was wrong. That night I cornered them, or I thought I did, near the twisted edge of the forest, where the cornfields met the foggy road. I stumbled through the dirt, my chest burning, sweat mixing with the scratches and mud on my arms. My flashlight flickered, casting fleeting shadows across the small, unmoving forms. They didn't flinch. Their eyes, pale, unblinking, glowing faintly, watched me. The fog seemed to curl around them, protective, obedient. I tried to speak, tried to demand answers. Why are you here? What do you want? No one answered. Then the tallest girl stepped forward. Her face was exactly as I remembered it when I was 10. Her hands clasped in front of her, motionless, almost ceremonial. "You know," she said, voice soft, echoing strangely, almost everywhere at once. "We are the town. We are the Vale. We are what remembers." I froze. My mind spun. "The children," she continued, "we are not trapped. We are extensions, agents. We watch for the lost. We guide them. We ensure balance. Without us, the Vale cannot hold. Without us, it dies." I shook my head. "No, that's impossible. You're just kids." She smiled faintly, not the smile of a child, not a human smile, something older, wiser, and infinitely patient. "We were never just children. We were made by it, by the Vale, by the thing beneath the well. Every year, every decade, every century we appear. We are the memory, the will, the eyes. We wait for those who think they can leave." I felt my knees weaken. My heart pounded so violently it hurt. I had thought the forest, the fog, the fields, the dogs, the map, even the well had been the danger. But now I understood. The children were the Vale's executors, silent, patient, eternal. "And you," she said, tilting her head, "you remember. You know too much. You run, but you belong. You are the lesson." I tried to pull away, tried to run. The fog thickened instantly, curling around my legs. Roots rose from the soil, trapping me in place. Corn stalks bent over me, scratching. The trees leaned inward, and in the shadows beyond I felt it,
the thing beneath the well, coiling, watching, aware. The children did not move. They did not need to. Their presence alone shaped reality. Every step I had taken, every misstep, every attempt at escape, it had been guided by them. They were everywhere, in the fog, in the reflections, in my memory. "You cannot fight us," the tallest girl said. "You cannot leave. You can only learn, and eventually you will understand." I realized then that the chase, the terror, the fog, the forest, the fields, the shifting town, it had all led me here, to the children, to the living, breathing memory of Redwood Vale. I fell to my knees, gasping. My mind reeled, my will shattered against the truth. The Vale does not need to hunt. The Vale does not need to strike. The Vale exists through obedience, through memory, through those who resist until they finally comprehend their place. And the children, they are eternal, watching, waiting, ensuring the rules are followed. I understood the cruelest part. I was being taught, tested, shaped, and one day I would become like them, or worse. The fog pressed closer, the forest leaned in, and the Vale whispered, patient, eternal. "You belong here, Daniel. You always have."